Hi 4-Hers, I'm Kelsey Nordyke, Cowley County Extension Agent. I'm here to share with you some horse safety tips for your 4-H horse project. Joining me is Angie Krups, who's our horse project leader for Cowley County, and Caleb Krups, who is a second-year member of the Tisdale 4-H Club and the Cowley County Horse Project. We're grateful that we had Leroy the horse joining us today too. One thing to point out before we even get started working with the horse is that it's important to be properly covered yourself. So what that means is you'll notice that all three of us are wearing long pants and boots. You don't necessarily have to wear boots, although those are the most safe footwear that you can wear, but we do discourage anyone from wearing flip-flops, sandals, open-toed shoes, or Crocs when they're working with their horse. We want to make sure to keep you protected. Now stay tuned for more safety tips. Okay, so now we're going to demonstrate how you would approach your horse if you were to catch him in the pasture. So Caleb, let's go ahead and walk up to Leroy. So notice Caleb has taken it kind of wide, and he has come up to Leroy at an angle. He didn't walk straight up from the back or straight up from behind. We're going to go ahead and halter him. And what we like to do is you can go ahead and take your lead rope and put it around the horse's neck just a little bit. He's not tying it, but he's having it loose just so that the horse feels like he's caught and that he's secure. Then we start by putting it on his nose first. And it is completely okay to have an adult or a bigger person help you. And the reason that we don't walk directly up from behind or directly up from the front is because of the way the horse's eyes are located on the sides of its head. This affects how the horse sees. He can't see somebody coming directly straight up from the front or straight up from behind. And horses are a fight or flight animal. And so if we spook them by walking directly up from the front or directly up from behind, we risk getting kicked or having them charge over us. The next thing Caleb is demonstrating that he's taking the extra rope on his lead and he's making just a couple big coils. So Caleb is not going to wrap that tight around his hand, because what could happen if Leroy spooks and tries to run off, then that coil would tighten up behind his hand and he risks losing his fingers or even his whole hand or getting drug, and just really it puts him in an unsafe position. Okay, now we're going to demonstrate how to lead your horse. So notice Caleb is turned away from us now, and he's turning Leroy to walk toward us. And when he turned him, he pushed the horse away from his body. We do that because if the horse spooks and we're pulling him toward us, he could run right over the top of us. And as Caleb walks, he's walking about even with Leroy's throat latch, which is right where his head and his neck meet. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate to you how to pick up your horse's foot. So we're going to start with the front foot. So if you'll walk up to him and start with your hand up on his foot or shoulder, move your hand down his leg, and I go right behind his fetlock and pinch, and I'm pushing with my body a little bit, and he picks it up. And then I set it back down gently. Then to pick up a back foot, I run my hand along his body, run it down his leg, pick it up, and then if I have my hoof pick, I can clean his feet out or whatever I need to do. But then to move around the horse, I keep my body close to him, and I rub right up against him, so that if he decides to kick, I'm right there and I can get moved and I can feel his body move. The other option is to go really wide outside of kicking range. So you have to have an idea of how far his legs could get you. So you want to take it nice and wide. And again, we do this because his eyes are on the side of his head and he can't see directly behind or directly in front. So we're going to demonstrate for you a couple of ways to tie your horse. Regardless of what kind of knot you do, it needs to be a quick release. So Angie's going to demonstrate a couple things here, a stockman's knot and a daisy chain.
You want to tie about an arm's length lead rope. You want to tie it so that the horse's head is at a neutral position, which is pretty much about that angle. And stop with bowline. Tie tail. Loop it over. Wrap it around. Come to the back side. Pull it through. Notice how I'm trying not to put my fingers through the loop in case he'd pull and get my fingers stuck in there. And then you pull that down tight there. And then this is a really long lead rope, if you can see. So instead of leaving it down on the ground, I'm going to daisy chain it. So you pull it through, pull it through, pull it through, pull it through, like that. Okay? Now that keeps your lead rope from being down on wet ground or wherever, or being able to get tangled up in. And I know that looks kind of like a mess, maybe a pretty mess, but the nice thing about it is if you need to in a hurry, you can just take and pull this and see how it all pops right through easy, and you've got control of your horse again.
We want to have a quick release knot so that if the horse does spook, we can release them from that to keep them from getting hurt and keep you. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate to you what I call just a quick release knot. Take it through. I take my tail and I go under and back over. Then I've made a loop up here and I take the tail and I pull it through. Now, I don't have the daisy chain like Angie did. This just leaves it, but it's a quick release knot. You will see a lot of people pull the tail through here, which the reason that we do that is because if your horse gets to chewing on it, he can untie himself. But what happens is we can't get him loose then. So if you do that, you want to be really careful and maybe leave it about like this so you can pull it back through and just release him. And we always tie our horse, like Angie said, in a neutral position. We say wither height or just a little bit below. So this is his withers. And so we're never going to tie him up high like maybe we would our show steers. We're trying to teach our show steers to keep their heads up. Our horses don't need to keep their heads up. And we don't snub them up to the trailer or to the fence either. If you are tying to a fence, you want to tie about wither high or within about 6 to 12 inches of wither height. And you want to tie to a middle pole rather than one that runs laterally, because then they can move along that pole. Always tie to a sturdy object too. So if it's just a panel that's not really firmly secured to the ground, you don't want to tie there.
And never a gate.
And never a gate. The other thing that we want to